How's it going? It's Mr. Donahue again. This time we're going to take a look at 25.10 stuff, carbohydrates. So our objectives will be to describe the structure and the properties of monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. All right, first off, carbohydrates. What are they? Am I right? So basically they're just sugars and starches. So these are in your foods, carbs. These are carbs, they're in pastas and stuff. What are they? They're sugars, they're starches. And why are they biologically important? Well, because they're energy storage. They're how, energy gets stored into glucose molecules and such, and then they get linked together. Carbohydrates store energy. They can be broken down during cellular respiration to make ATP, and as you guys remember, ATP is the energy currency of a cell, right? It's how cells do things. They need ATP, and that's how they get energetic reactions to occur, things that wouldn't spontaneously occur to occur. So if you want to contract that muscle, you need some ATP. All right, and they're also used structurally in organisms like plants, cellulose in plants. Cellulose is a carbohydrate. All right, so why are they called carbohydrates? Well, break it down. Their empirical formula simplifies to CH2O. So carbo is that carbon, hydrate is the H2O part. Examples, glucose, C6H12O6 is going to simplify to become CH2O as its empirical formula. Same thing if we had ribose. Same thing, C5H10O5, it's going to simplify to give me CH2O. So that's why they're called carbohydrates. All right, monosaccharides. So saccharide just basically means sugar, and mono means one. So we're looking at a single sugar molecule. So they're simple sugars that can't be broken down by hydrolysis into smaller molecules. This is the basic unit of a sugar molecule, right? So here are a couple of examples. It's just one molecule of sugar. Can't be broken down into smaller molecules. Example would be like glucose and fructose. And here I have the structures of those, glucose and fructose. All right, more about glucose. Glucose is an open chain that will react with itself to make a 6-member ring. So if we take a look, here's the ring of glucose. Here is the open chain. So it reacts with itself and folds up to make a ring. And that ring is glucose. And that ring can take one of two different configurations. So basically, the difference between those two is the OH group on the first carbon, which is this one, can either point in the opposite direction, which we call the alpha form, or in the same direction, which we call the beta form, of the CH2OH group on the fifth carbon. So if we take a look here, this OH is either pointing in the same direction or in the opposite direction. So right now it's in the opposite direction, and we call that the alpha form. And then here you can see the OH and the CH2OH are both pointing in the same direction, and that is what we call the beta form of glucose. So now you may think, oh, hey, why is that important? Because any difference in structure will create a difference in function, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So that's glucose. You got two forms of it. Fructose can react with itself to make a 5-member ring or a 6-member ring. So if we take a look here, it can react to make a 5-member ring, or it can react to make a 6-member ring, and that's going to be fructose. Now, you've seen fructose probably in sugary beverages and stuff, and you may have wondered, why is it fructose, not glucose or sucrose? Well, here's why. The difference in sweetness, how our palate detects sweetness, is different. Whereas the least sweet would be lactose, found in like milk and stuff, glucose, and then sucrose, and then fructose is much more sweeter than those other sugars. So you'll need less of it to make it taste as sweet as, let's say, instead you use sucrose. You'll need less fructose than you will sucrose because fructose we taste as sweeter. All right, disaccharides. So let's break it down. Di means two, saccharides means sugars. So we got two sugar molecules together. So two monosaccharides linked together by a condensation reaction. So you can see right here, it kind of looks like two separate sugar molecules, and they react and they get linked together right here by a condensation reaction, which we've seen a bunch of times before. So sucrose is an example. Lactose is another example of a disaccharide. So here is the breakdown. So if we want sucrose, in order to make sucrose, you need to get a glucose molecule and a fructose molecule and then stick them together. Boom. Condensation reaction. And if you want a lactose molecule, you got to get galactose and glucose together and then connect them with a condensation reaction to make a disaccharide. All right, so polysaccharides. So again, poly means many. and saccharides means sugar. So we got a lot of sugar molecules, a lot of sugar monomers, so many monosaccharides bonded together by condensation reactions. And examples would be like starch or glycogen or cellulose. And you can see here, like the poly right here, boom, 300 to 600. So it's saying that you got these monomers, and in between them you can have a chain that's 300 to 600 monomers long. So it's long, right? Poly. All right, so starch. Starch is important for like food storage in plants. It's also made from the alpha form of glucose. As you can see here, here's the structure. So all the alpha glucose linked together to make starch, and it's important for food storage. It can get digested into glucose, and that's why starches, if like you chew on a cracker long enough, it's going to start to taste sweet because all that starch is getting broken down into sugars in your mouth by the salivary amylase. All right, so it can be straight chained or branched. So right now this is kind of showing the straight chain, but it's saying you can have it branched off and molecules that look like this. So glycogen's pretty neat. Glycogen is starch-like. It's similar to starch in that it is energy storage in our bodies. And it's found in our muscles and our liver. And what's really cool is in the middle of it is you got a protein. And that protein basically acts as like a binding site for all of those glucose molecules. So, and then you get a huge glob of it looking like this, and you can see all these little chains are glucose molecules that are linked together, and that is glycogen. It's important for energy storage in our bodies. It's what our bodies go to first when we need some energy reserves. All right, cellulose is found in plants, and it's used for structure. Wood is 50% cellulose. It's that protein that gives, I'm not the protein, it's the polysaccharide that gives it its structure and stuff. And it's made from the beta form of glucose. So this is important because since it's the beta form, it'll have a different shape. And because it has a different shape, it'll have a different structure and different function. So because it's got a different 3D shape, it can't be digested by the same protein. So the protein that we have to digest starch can't digest cellulose because it's got a different shape. So that's why we call it fiber. You want a high fiber diet. It helps you with, bowel movements and stuff because it doesn't get digested. It passes right on through. All right, so what can you say about carbohydrates? That's pretty much the whole point of this video. What can you say about carbohydrates, monosaccharides, disaccharides, polysaccharides? And that's it. Hope you found this helpful. I'll see you in class. Okay, bye.